Pearl, while I've got you on my sofa,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, we just need to brainstorm some tips for people that struggle with anxiety, okay? Because there's a lot of interpreters. Look at us. That face there, that face was saying, don't we all? I don't have the answers. Because realistically,
I don't have the answers is the best one.
When we get messages as a qualified interpreter that says, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? You are the only one that has the answers for your anxiety system. Your anxiety system, though, and this is one thing I always say to trainees, anxiety is there for a reason. It's there to teach you something.
I always say nerves are good as well.
Yeah. I actually, as someone who's probably realising their ADHD, am realising I got stimulated by them nerves. And now that I'm quite competent and don't get nervous, I'm bored.
You are one of a kind.
No, but
Just
to a trainee, what would you say?
just try and be more prepared, more organised. I always remember an interpreter, brilliant interpreter. She used to drive to the venue, wherever I used to send her, the night before. So she would have all angles and all road access. But that worked. And I used to think she was
Mad.
off her head. But then like I thought, you know what? That's probably her way of dealing with if there's a problem or very organised. Like that's just one example. But obviously in an ideal world we always want prep for jobs. Realistically it doesn't happen. And it's not always the agency's fault. It's the organisers. But even just if the booking was to do with universities, just look into some stuff of the universities, like criteria, anything or any new glossaries. I always think building a BSL glossary is really good. All jobs.
What about if you were interpreting and maybe you missed something and that deaf person you saw roll their eyes, or you could tell they were getting frustrated with you?
Because you missed something.
Because you might have missed something, or because you might be struggling.
Okay, well, if you're struggling and if you did genuinely miss something, sorry, could we just repeat that again? And you're human.
But I'm talking about the feelings you feel about yourself, like the anxiety, the fact that you've just seen your client. Like,
maybe have a word. You just don't know. So it's best to just go to them and just be like, seen you like earlier, like, everything all right? And they'd be like, yeah, no. Or they'd be like, well, actually, yeah, you did do me, I didn't, because I just couldn't understand what you're saying. But really, deaf people should say to you, like, can you go back? Can you do it again? Or
yeah, I think as interpreters, we have to accept the fact that deaf people have barriers their whole life. Deaf people have a right to be frustrated with that. Sometimes you're in the firing line for that frustration, and sometimes it's not personal. Yes, you personally might be struggling in those moments, but the fact that they might be irritated is a whole backlog of just life.
But I would just speak to them after, or if there was a break or something, and just be like, "My interpreting okay?" And it's like an open question.
Yeah,
let them tell you, sort of thing.
And if you speak it rather than carrying it home with you, it will stop that growing, and then you won't then take it to the next job.
There you go.
This is the type of thing that I want. This is what I'd love for this platform to be. I'd love for us to all, people that, don't even, anonymous people that don't even want to put their name to the question, the thoughts, the concern, the experience.
The questions also help others as well.
Yeah, so we read them out, we get some idea of how people are feeling, and we just talk about it. So I'm a CSW who's thinking about being a TSLI, but I'm held back by my internal concerns about my attitude. Sometimes I have real downers and don't like facing people or meeting new people. Okay. I also worry if I'm new to them and things go wrong, aka I'm late, they'll have a low expectation of me from then on. Do you have any anxieties over meeting new people? Have not interpreted for them before, or they're a new deaf client? How do you handle if things go wrong and reassure that deaf client to try and regain their trust and meet their expectations? That's a really dynamic and quite a
it depends
complicated
if you've been
question.
booked directly by the deaf person, or if you've been booked through an agency. You could possibly ask if you could have that person's number.
Yeah.
You could have maybe like a little WhatsApp or a FaceTime 5 minutes before, just to familiarise yourself with each other. And I would also, and I've said this before, like, to journal like new different jobs.
Right.
How did you feel when you accepted the job? How did the job go? Did your feelings prior to the job is how you feel now? Like that's what
Why?
I used to do. I used to write down like different, because obviously with certain deaf people in Birmingham, I would know pretty much a lot of people. When I started traveling out, not knowing these different deaf people and stuff, it is quite daunting.
So that reflectiveness
Yeah, so that I found that
helped you control the anxiety by journaling it.
yeah, just about like how to manage that feeling of going in sometimes where you don't have prep or you don't know the person, to then after it's like we said earlier, it's good to be nervous. Like it's going to keep happening because you're going to be working with so many different people throughout your career, and you're a CSW.
I think that's what he's trying to say. He's saying I'm not a people person as such. Me and you are quite people, but I remember someone doing a study.
A little 5-minute call before a booking after
you don't always get that though. But I think what in terms of personalities, extroverts and introverts, I remember someone presenting their PhD research, and they'd done some research into seeing how many interpreters were classed as introvert and extrovert, and most were quite introverted. Right. So I feel like that's why I met you and why we gelled so much, because we've probably got our introverted ways where we recharge on our own maybe, but for me, extroverts get their energy from people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I go to the gym not just to go to the gym to work out. I get my energy from being around people. Whereas some people, they lose energy when they're around people. So I can understand that guy's predicament, in that the fact that he's probably worked with the same student in the college and he's comfortable, and if he was to go any further as a TSLI,
and again, if he's saying about if he was late, and does that impact on that deaf, but just have that conversation with them. You just have to really step out of your comfort zone,
and you have to understand that you're human.
Exactly.
You don't have to like everyone.
We're allowed to make errors.
You don't have to like everyone. Yes, you need to aim to be there early, because your presence is really important, and you are going to impact that deaf person's day if you're late. No doubt about it. Like
it's a given to get there like 15 minutes before.
Yeah, there is levels to it, of course, but you are still human. And, the expectations for you to perform are there, but the expectations for you to not be human and make mistakes is unrealistic. So just having that confidence to be open, say sorry. If you're doing it regularly, on a regular basis, have a word with yourself, like I do on a regular basis. When you're just having a month and you're like, oh God, I need to stop being late, or, you have to have a word with yourself sometimes. So thank you for those little inputs. Obviously, I've kept you here way too long, but